But Mo, I have to say to you once again, it's lovely to have you here.
It is lovely for me to be here. So thank you for inviting me.
Oh, Guta, can you begin, please?
Okay, I can. Mo, I have many arms. The video message I sent you was about the empathy revolution that's going on, I think, with this pandemics. I think that's it's a great opportunity, and it joins a little bit what Patricia said about the communities. It was a story about a Brazilian hospital who take care of children. And one day there was a 5-year-old dying, very sick, very ill, and very tired. And when she was about to die, she starts to cry. She joined forces to cry and asked for her mom. And she didn't have any mom or dad. And then doctors went crazy, and the director of the hospital saw that scene, and she was so mad at God, at everything, and how can this happen with a 5-year-old? And so the director went out of the hospital and just looked to a tree and said, "What are you doing?" And she was really desperate with the situation. And then she had an idea. She changed a little bit her hair and she put on other clothes, and she went to the little girls, took her in her arms and said, "Mommy's here. Mom's here, don't worry, Mom's here." And the little girl started to calm down. She stopped crying and she fell asleep, and she died afterwards. So it's about affection, it's about care, it's things that I believe that this can also save lives. And I think that it's coming with the pandemics. Is something that's coming. It's an opportunity to talk to people about empathy. So my first question is, how do you see that? Are you seeing the same thing? Are you seeing this opportunity as well? Because for me, it's the time of opportunity to realize many things of life that we never realize in normal scenarios. Mm-hmm. So I just wrote a book, and all my authoring rights are going to the hospital, because in Brazil, it's a poor country, and who is rich have access to health and very good health, but people who are poor do not have. And so this hospital has 60% of the capacity reserved for people who don't have money to pay a lot of things. And it's the best pediatric reference in South America in pediatrician. Right? And I see this opportunity, and sometimes I feel I'm talking alone. And I want to know from you, with all the people you talk with, how do you see this empathy revolution that I'm feeling coming through?
This is such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing this. I don't call this empathy, by the way. This is a lot more than empathy. Empathy is to feel the pain of others, is to feel the challenges that others are going through. But there is a step further. Empathy, if you want, is the feminine side of us. It's the ability to connect to others, right? What you saw the doctor doing there is compassion. It is actually taking action based on that empathy. She allowed herself to be moved by that feeling and actually go and make a difference. Right? And when you really think about it, you ask yourself, it's a 5-year-old child. Where does the ego, the definition of, but I'm not her mother, that doesn't come anywhere. Everyone should be the mother of a 5-year-old. Everyone should be the father of a 5-year-old. And I think we're starting to lose a bit of that. Now, when the pandemic came, I think what happened is we became polarized into two types of people. Some of us have started to become even more worried about ourselves. So we started to say, I don't know what the future is going to bring. I am a little more worried. So accordingly, I'm going to protect myself even more and try to collect, remember at the beginning of the pandemic, especially in the European countries and, North America and so on, people just started to collect everything they can find in the supermarket, right? And when you start to think how individualistically focused we became. Now, of course, as the pandemic started to lock us all down, a lot of people started to see the other side. And the other side is made up of a few points. One point is, if you are still in a good place, you're not sick, you didn't lose someone that you love, you didn't, completely lose your economic ability to live and sustain a living, then you're very, very fortunate. Okay. And some people started to recognize that it's not the misfortune of the pandemic, it's actually the fortune of me being okay within the pandemic. Then they started to notice, but not everyone is going through that. Some people got sick, some people lost loved ones, some people lost jobs and lost economic livelihood. And so they started to feel the empathy for those others, right? When you feel blessed, you also feel that others are maybe not so blessed. The challenge is, can we give up on our fear? Can we give up on our fear to say, I trust that things will be okay, and go out there and help others through that act of compassion? Can I trust that because I have a bit of income, I lost a bit of income, but I also lost a lot of the cost that came with my life before the pandemic. Can I call a friend and say, I'm going to lend you a few $100s because I know you're going through a tough time, just give them back to me when things are easy? Can I go out there to someone who's feeling lonely because they're locked down, and I know that feeling of loneliness? Can I call them and say, hey, by the way, I'm really, really, really caring about you. I want you to know that I care. I want you to know that I'm here. Send them a message, send them a funny joke, call them for 5 minutes and ask how they are. Can I feel it in my heart when someone is worried, while I'm not maybe that worried, that I can call them and explain to them that things will be okay? Because, by the way, things have always been okay in the history of humanity. We go through difficult times and then we come out of it on the other end. There has been quite a bit of compassion. There has been quite a bit of empathy to start, but some of it, a lot of it has turned into compassion. And you can see around the world that we are getting together as humanity, I think, for the first time. I think it's the first time in my lifetime where some global event treats all of us the same. Okay, so this is, the virus is not differentiating between the rich and the poor. The virus is not differentiating between, the woman or man. It's not, we're all locked down. We're all, exposed to the same threat, if you want. But at the same time, this brings us together to unify us in a way that really, as you rightly said, is a call to compassion. It's a call to action. It's a call to say, can I make a difference? Because when I make a difference, the world will make a difference to me. And I'm hoping that this will be the case with many people. I think more and more people are noticing it.
Thank you so much, Mo. And I'd like to ask you about social media in this pandemic time, because everybody talks about this social dilemma about social media and dystopia, utopia, both sides. And you are someone who came from Google, so you know the truth, really what's happened there. But what I think, you know that because I told you that a lot of times. So I am someone who is using social media since a long time to make the right thing. So to be social, responsible, to make my social work, as you know. So I'd like to ask you, but I see in this time, in the pandemic, social media has so a big part of our lives. How can I say? It's so really it's become, I think, much bigger part of our lives. And I really want to see through your eyes, how you see these things. It's just a very bad thing, or it's a good thing, or what we can do to bring to people to explore the good side of social media.
Sandra, and just before you answer, Mo, I feel a lot of anxiety with social media. Is this something you're asking also in your question?
Yeah,
I think we
everything
have
together, everything together. The social dilemma, utopia, dystopia brings together, brings apart. So
sometimes I feel I don't need that much information. You know?
Yeah, I'll cover that too. So I see that social media is. You asked me, is it really that bad like what we see in the social dilemma? Yes, it is. Okay. In the social dilemma, one of the speakers, I don't remember his name, basically said that when we normally think about artificial intelligence as a risk to humanity when it's more intelligent than the most intelligent of us. But the reality is that artificial intelligence already has found our biggest weaknesses. So it's not better than our strengths. It's better than our biggest weaknesses. And because it's better than our biggest weaknesses, it's sort of exploiting them in ways that are not always good for us, ways that are good for the producer of that application or the developer of a certain technology and so on. And this puts truly a dilemma in place because social media, like any other technology, is a double-edged sword, right? I can give you a car so that you can move from A to B a little faster in a more comfortable setup. And that's wonderful. Or I can give you a car to drive it at 200 miles an hour and hit a tree and kill yourself. Okay. It's not the mistake of the car. It's the mistake of how you use it. Okay. And so if you drink and you drive and you have an accident, you can't blame the technology provider. By the way, in the case of social media, you also can blame the technology provider because the technology provider is always trying to push you in the direction where they can make more money off you. You're actually the product that they're selling. Now, what does that mean? It means, like everything else, when you have something that is partly good and partly bad, that you need to capitalize on the good and avoid the bad. And that is not up to the technology provider to solve for you. You know, someone that sells you wine, it's not up to them how much you drink. It's not, if you have a glass of wine with your dinner when you're having a good time with a friend, that's wonderful. If you drink 2 bottles because you want to escape your problems and then you get into a fight or a car accident or you hurt yourself somehow, then that's not the problem of the manufacturer. It's your problem of how you used it. So there are a few things about social media that I call toxic internet. I simply call them swiping and typing. And swiping and typing are the things that we do mindlessly when we're on social media. Okay, so you and I, Sandra, when we go on Instagram, I have at least 1 post a day, and that post sends a positive message to the world. Of course, the algorithm doesn't really prefer it, and it doesn't send it out to as many people as it should, but we still get a few thousand people that watch a positive message today. That's a wonderful use of social media. If after I do that, I start to swipe through Instagram mindlessly, an hour later I will realize that my time has been wasted and my mind has been toxified, right? And and if I respond to everything that Instagram will show me, I'll very quickly find that my entire feed is women doing squats. And I actually did that experiment, by the way. I took Instagram for a couple. I experiment with everything, and I literally, when you go to that search bar, they show you some content, and most of the time, 60% of it is pretty or athletic women. Okay. And I normally would not want to swipe through that. That's, and then I clicked for 2 days, and I promise you, I have a screenshot of my entire screen is made up of women that squat. Okay. Now, Is that the problem of Instagram? Partially, because they're trying to influence my preference, but it's also my choice, and my choice determines how actions how the technology responds to my actions. So what are we supposed to do here? We're supposed to be mindful. We're supposed to use the positive side of social media and avoid the negative side of it. Okay, we're supposed to use it, but not overuse it. We're supposed to own it, but not let it own us. Okay, and all of these are choices that we have. It's funny that you asked me this question, because today I'm working on the last chapter of my book about artificial intelligence, and in that chapter I was simply saying exactly that. I was simply saying, if we did not rush to buy the iPhone 12 because nobody needs a better camera or a fancier phone or a new phone, okay, Apple will stop making those phones, and they will start making phones that are good for our mental health, good for our digital health, and so on and so forth. If we told them what we want, they would shift. Similarly with social media, if we start to say, no, we're going to refuse being led like herds of sheep to things that the social media provider believes can make them money. Okay, if we take that stand, if we stop and say, no, I'm only going to click on things that are wholesome for me. I'm not going to eat junk food, and I'm not going to consume junk content. Okay, and if we start to make those choices, I think everyone would get a better experience of social media. The opposite is also true, is even more true. If we stop populating social media with such content, all of us would actually use that to improve the world. If that media is constantly populated with positive content, it would make the world a better place. Remember, like the case with every technology just amplifies what human abilities are. So you can walk at 5 kilometers an hour, you jump in a car and you can go 200 kilometers an hour, right? It's just making your ability to be mobile bigger. Similarly, all of the negativity that you see on social media today is just amplifying how we've become as humanity. We have become a generation of people who are narcissistic, egocentric, rude, aggressive. And because we have those in us, that's why social media magnifies them. If what we had inside us is compassion, is love, is understanding, that too will be magnified.
Oh, can I ask a question? Because my anxiety doesn't come from good and bad stuff in my social media, because I don't see television, I don't watch television anymore, but it's more in the work life and academic life. I often feel left behind because I missed posts or videos or things like that, you know? Yeah. And that's the real work life today.
Let me tell you the truth, okay? I have not watched the news for the last 5.5 months. Since the pandemic started, I watched the news 3 times, okay? And I missed nothing. Do you understand that? So what happened is I'm here in Montreal. Around 3 weeks ago, somebody sent me a text and said, hey, by the way, we are code red. And I was like, yes, what is code red? And she said, that means restaurants are going to close down and you're going to have to wear a mask. And I was like, yeah, that's all I need to know, right? When I need to know something about the pandemic, I actually search. I go to the internet and I say, death rates in the Netherlands. That's what I want to know. I don't need someone to bombard me with information that I don't use in any possible way other than worrying me. Here in Montreal, in the last 3 months where I stayed here, they've been discussing everything. Is this a responsibility of the government? Is this ever going to end? Did it come from China? Can we deprioritize supporting funds that we put behind our French language and put those behind? I don't care about all of this. Okay, so when I started my podcast Slow Mo, I had a guest on Slow Mo that actually gave me a very interesting gold nugget. At least gave the listeners that gold nugget, because it's part of my habit. And she said, I schedule my anxiety. And I said, what do you mean by that, Karen? And she said, I because I have that fear of missing out, like you're saying, Augusta, she basically says, I allow myself half an hour a day between 2 and 2:30 in the evening. I watch the news, and then after 2:30, I stop completely. Okay. And that's the portion of anxiety that I get every day, half an hour, and that's it. And I responded by laughing. And I said, okay, I scheduled my anxiety between 2 and 2:10 3 months ago. And that's it, right? You know, that's all you really need. And I think the challenge we have as humans is we think that information is always positive. If you're a computer scientist like I am, you realize that a flood of information stops you from processing, from having the brain power to process that information. So what you need is the actual information that enables decision making, not the negativity of the media, not the fluff, not the opinion, not the fake news, not the conspiracy theory. All I need to know is a mask helps me become better, and the city I live in wants me to do A, B, and C. I am not going to invent a vaccine. And by the way, if I watched 200 news articles today about inventing a vaccine, it's not gonna accelerate the vaccine development. It's just going to make me anxious. Now, like we said with technology, I am in charge. I'm responsible for my own happiness. And if you know, again, like the example of junk food, you are responsible of your own health. If you go out there and eat tons of cookies and junk food, you're not going to feel good. But that's not the mistake of those who are making the cookies and the junk food. It's your mistake because you made the choice to destroy your own health by doing the wrong things. We also make the mistake of destroying our own happiness by just filling our heads with negativity.
Thank you so much, Mo. It's fantastic. I think the same like you. So I would ask Patricia to make a question, please.
Engage in the conversation talking about our choice. We believe that for happy people and smart cities, smart people. And talking about making choice and working for smart people, smart citizens. Can you give some inspiration for the people that are watching us? And we are going to have a lot of college students watching the presentations, and I think that they need a lot of inspiration on how to make choices for better living, and that this is a challenge for our days lives, socializing and connecting everybody, and how to work on this and making choices, not just only for me. Of course, we need to know to work for ourselves, but also for our families, our neighbors, so the collective. Can you give some inspiration?
Yeah, I mean, in a simple way, I always shy away from giving very specific advice because all humans are different. Okay, we all are the same when it comes to what makes us happy or unhappy. Okay, but what makes us happy or unhappy as individuals, so what makes us happy is for life to meet our expectations, is for us to live the life that we wanted to live. Some of us would feel very, very happy if you put them on a beach and they surf all the time. Others will feel very, very happy if you kept them as far away as possible from a beach. Okay, it's not a beach in itself that makes us happy or unhappy. It's what you want from your life. Now, what we struggle with mostly as we go into cities is a misunderstanding in terms of the priority of our happiness. So sadly, for many of us, we are brought up by our parents and by society to believe that success is more important than happiness. Okay, and so accordingly, we sacrifice our happiness. We tell ourselves it's okay to stay unhappy for the first 15, 20 years of your career. That's fine. That's a reasonable price to pay to get to success, because when you're successful, you're going to become happy. And so when we decide that in our minds, we make horrible decisions. Okay, we make decisions around living in places that are maybe not very comfortable for us because it saves us a bit of money. We make decisions about finding work that might be on the other end of the city because it's a better job and we suffer from commute. We make decisions that are about, you know, hiring, working in places that pay us $100 more but make us miserable because we want the $100 more. We're just so motivated by success. Now, my theory is that the opposite is true. Success does not lead to happiness, but happiness actually leads to success. Okay, and if you make a choice in your life to say, hold on, I'm not going to work in a place that annoys me, or take a commute that is really, really horrible, work for a boss that makes me feel bad about myself, all of those things. I'm going to make a choice that I will actually live and work in places that I love and enjoy and that correspond to my passions and my purpose in life. Something amazing happens. Instead of you making $100 more, because you work in a place that you love, or you take a commute that you love, so you're a little less stressed and so on, you end up doing so much better at that job that they promote you and give you $300 more. And if they don't promote you and give you $300 more, your reputation with your clients or the other people that you work with is, look at this positive person that's always doing her job really well, that's always, you know, nice to others, because you're happy, right? And when you're happy, those things would then get people to come to you and say, hey, by the way, we want to come work with us. I think you're a wonderful person. And I had that in my life all the time. So I've, you know, it's not a secret that my last job in Google as a chief business officer of Google X is probably the best job on the planet. Like, this is absolutely even better than the job of the CEO of Google, because we were inventing and doing amazing things. And I was working with the smartest people on earth. And I didn't get there because I was grumpy and aggressive and pushy and, you know, oh, we have to work hard and we always deliver our best work when we're stressed. I got there because I loved what I did, okay? And it showed. Everyone that spoke to me understood that I loved what I did. Now, it goes back to that idea of a choice, which basically means the next time you're going to look for a place to live, if you're into nature, try to find a place that is a little closer to nature or a park. Okay, if you're, if you're the kind of person that likes to listen to a podcast in the morning, try to find a place that is 30 minutes away from your work. If you are, passionate about art and your job is a salesperson, try to find the job in a place that sells art. Okay, and if you start to make those choices, somehow you become more successful because you're happier. And by the way, even if you don't become more successful, at least you're happier. Because at the end of the day, the truth is, what we want, the reason we go to a job, is we want to be happy. We want, it's the middleman, if you want. And I will stop by saying, and this choice, by the way, applies to everything. It applies to the kind of mattress that you sleep on. It applies to the partner that you allow into your life. It applies to, the choices you make on what you wear. It is entirely, all of that has been distracted by the modern world, okay? While the truth is, all of it should be primarily designed to help you find happiness. So if your partner is not making you happy, sit down with your partner and say, can we talk about this, please? The next couple, those couple of things are really, really making it difficult for me. Can you help me with those? And by the way, tell me the couple of things that you're upset about and maybe I can work on them, right? And if it doesn't work out, leave. There must be 3.9 billion others around the world that can become your partner, whether you're into girls or into men. There are enough of those outside, other than that in the world. If we start to make our choices, not because of fear, not because of ego, not because we're motivated by success, not because we're trying to control events out of, that are not necessarily within our control. If we start to make those choices, what will end up happening is you'll become happier. And because you'll become happier, you'll be better at achieving the result that you want to achieve.
Thank you, Mo.
Can you please, Jaqueline?
Thank you so much, Sandra. Mo, my question to you goes very much around what you have just mentioned about going towards things that inspire you, that touch your heart and make you happy. One of my talks within the summit will be around how has the pandemic showed us that we were probably more often than not disconnected to the areas where we live in. And because of travel restrictions and movement restrictions that we have, been facing for many months now worldwide, we have to start discovering where we live. And that has showed us it's a lot better when we know where we are, when we can find spots that we enjoy around ourselves. Do you believe this is one of the conditions we should also consider for planning smart cities with happy people? Like not leaving aside nature integration, not leaving aside arts and talents of all kinds that can be in the center of the city planning? Absolutely.
This is actually a multi-layered question, so I'll try to answer it on two levels. So in my theory is that we're all born happy, that happiness is our instinctive feeling, that the only thing that happens to us is we grow out of happiness. So we become unhappy when reasons for our unhappiness come into our life. So the number one thing that a smart city should consider is to stop making people unhappy. Okay, before it thinks of things that make people happy, it needs to remove the reasons for unhappiness. So, if commute is a disaster for everyone, designing a city with the proper, public transport or the proper infrastructure removes that wasted effort and time and tension in commute. And by removing the reason for unhappiness, people become happy. If a city is depriving us from what we need as humans, which is a connection of nature, a connection to the sun, somehow being in a healthy environment, if you remove those things, then you're likely to make people more happy. Now, this is different in its design than adding things to a city, because adding things to a city doesn't always work, because sometimes I call that the state of escape. Okay, and surprisingly, again, I was just writing about this a couple of weeks ago. The trick here is this: London or New York is an incredibly stressful city. It is so stressful. The pace is so hard. People are so driven. Sometimes people are very grumpy, and you can feel the tension as you're going through it. At the same time, they're two of the cities that have the most amazing cultural and entertainment landscapes on the planet. You have all of those theaters and all of those museums and all of those concerts and so on and so forth. Now, is one the result of the other? Is one driven by the other? Of course, because if you are so stressed, there is a good business for you to go into recreation, right? If you're so unable to find happiness in your natural state, you're going to have to go to escape by finding yourself a pub or a comedy show and so on and so forth. And interestingly, I will tell you openly, we humans don't actually need those things. We can add those things to our life when we're already happy to make our life enjoyable. But when we use them as a replacement, okay, as a painkiller, if you want, because life is so stressful, so take me out of my stress by taking me to a cultural show, that is not the right answer. So the right answer starts with, I need to find my own happiness by removing the reasons for unhappiness, and then I can enhance that happiness by adding wonderful experiences to my life. That's number one. Number two is what you said about the pandemic, and that to me is such a profound question. So those of us who really, really practice, a path to enlightenment, if you want, I'm nowhere near enlightenment, so just so that you know, but I'm trying to be on that path. If you practice that path, you start to realize that a lot of things that we value in life are not that valuable at all. Okay, and so I've been to Rio de Janeiro, for example, and it's such a wonderful beach. For a Brazilian from Rio de Janeiro to travel anywhere else in the world, to go to another beach, if you don't mind me saying, is stupid. Okay, it's stupid because it's destructive to the environment. It's destructive to your financials. It's destructive to everything that you get in, your ability to be satisfied with something, because now you're seeking a beach that is maybe 3,000 kilometers away while you have a wonderful beach. And the idea is we've been sold all of this from advertising and marketing of people that want you to travel. We've been sold so many things that taught us that it's not good enough. What you have is not good enough. The dream is on the other side. Now, I've traveled the world countless times. A couple of years ago, I did 9 trips around the world. The year after that, I did 8.7. The year after that, I did 7.8. I'm constantly traveling. And I will tell you openly, what makes an amazing difference to life is human connection. Okay, if you can find a wonderful friend on a beach, whether that beach is here or in Australia, that's wonderful. Okay, if you can, it is nature connection. If you can walk to a park, whether that park has ancient trees that are rare, that are collected by the queen, or just a simple tree. Okay, it's a tree, it's nature. And if we can manage to allow ourselves to find enough of those things in our city, as the pandemic showed us, we would realize that we actually don't need to go that far around the world and destroy the planet, seeking things that can be just around the corner. When again, in my podcast, I interviewed one of my favorite guests was Jimmy Nelson. And Jimmy spoke about how he is a photographer that traveled to the extreme ends of the world to find indigenous tribes and take pictures of them. Okay. And then when the pandemic hit, he had to stay at home in Amsterdam and would walk outside his house with his son to the park that is literally around the corner. And he said, which really, really touched my heart, he said, I traveled to the ends of the globe to find happiness when happiness was just around the corner in a walk with me and my son in the park. Okay? And if we start to look at life that way, suddenly happiness becomes unconditional. It doesn't depend on things that we seek outside of us and pay so dearly for and stay in an aeroplane for 37 hours to get to. Happiness becomes easily accessible just because those simple things are all around us, and we actually don't need more than that. Let me just close again when we were talking about Jimmy. So Jimmy and I are getting together again for an Instagram live conversation in a couple of weeks' time to ask this interesting question, which is COVID-19 the virus or the cure? Okay, because in many, many, many ways, when you think about our life in the last year, so much has been taken away from us, but so much has been given to us. Did you understand? So you may have lost your mobility to travel anywhere you want, but you gained time with people that you love. Okay, you may have lost your ability to mingle in the office and meet everyone, but you've gained that ability to work in shorts and commute for 3 seconds between your bedroom and your office. Okay, you may have lost your ability to go out to restaurants, but you've gained the ability of cooking healthy food at home. You may have lost your ability to go out to the movies, but you gained your ability to spend 2 or 3 evenings with someone that you love, watching something beautiful on TV or on Netflix or whatever. And in that process, if you actually observe what happened to our planet, our streets are cleaner, our interactions as humans are nicer, our environment is cleaning up. So now you can smell that the air is cleaner. You can acknowledge that we're no longer burning as much fuel as we used to. You can observe the Himalayas from 300 kilometers away. It's almost as if our environment is simply saying, look, you humans with big egos thinking that you can fix me by inventing the next thing to reverse climate change. All I need you to do is to just stay at home for 4 months. If you stay at home for 4 months, I'll fix it. Okay? And when you start to realize that, when you start that the biggest thing that COVID-19 has given us is time to reflect, time to understand that some of the things that we've done are not the best things that we could have done. Okay? And if you can use that opportunity to reflect and change some of your habits, you will start to see the gift in COVID-19 and not the curse that we're all, you know, sort of complaining about, when there is a lot of blessings to be observed.
Nice. Luciane?
Cool.
Vou fazer sim. Hi, Mo. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
And I consider it important for many reasons, but people still think that leisure is a matter of time and not of personal decision. What do you think about how leisure can help transform people to happiness?
I don't believe that leisure can transform people to happiness at all. In my research, I call pleasure, fun, entertainment, I call those the state of escape. Okay, and the state of escape is a state that that we run to because of advertisement pressure to try and find happiness outside of us. Okay, happiness is to be found inside us. Inside us meaning happiness in my happiness equation is the difference between the events of your life and your expectations of how life should be. So every moment in your life you felt unhappy is a moment where you were given something that you believe is not what you want life to be. Okay? To get to be happy with life is simply a process of loving what you want, not wanting what you love. Loving what you have, not wanting what you love. Okay? If you can learn to love what you have, whatever it is, then you reach happiness. On top of that comes pleasure, fun, and joy. Now, let me tell you the difference. If you're unhappy inside and you bombard yourself with leisure and fun and pleasure and so on, what you're doing is you're using a painkiller. It's like having a big headache. And instead of finding out what the reason for the headache is, you just take a painkiller. Take 2 tablets, the headache goes away for 4 hours, and then the effects go away. So what you need to do, you take another 2 tablets. And then 4 hours later, it comes back, another 2 tablets, and you move from normal tablets to extra strength to maximum strength, and so on. You move from 2 tablets to 4 tablets to 6 tablets. This is what happens to us with painkillers. And it's also what happens to us with fun and escape. Why? Because when we feel unhappy and we don't know what to do about it, and then we go to a party and have a couple of drinks and dance a little, our brains stop thinking about the stuff that is making us unhappy, so we think we're happy. And then you wake up in the morning and you have a hangover and the thoughts are still there, so you're still unhappy again. What do? You go to the gym, you run on the treadmill for a couple of, for half an hour. Your brain goes like, I need to focus on this. I don't want to fall and die. And so it doesn't think about your problems. You feel happy. You hit the showers. Okay. Your brain goes, are you trying to numb me? I have problems I want to talk to you about. Okay. So using fun and pleasure just as a painkiller doesn't cure the symptom. And so this is why you see people going from a party to a wilder party. Okay, from a relationship to crazy relationships, from running on the treadmill to jumping out of an airplane, right? And all of those things are an attempt to numb the brain, to make it shut up so that it doesn't talk about the things that are annoying it. If you do that, then it's endless. The right way to use leisure and fun and pleasure is to actually find your true happiness. Find the happiness first, and then add pleasure to it. Okay? If you're miserable, the sexiest woman on the planet is not going to make you happy. If you're happy inside, a wonderful, kind, loving woman will make you the happiest person alive, right? Not because of the presence of the woman, but because you're happy inside. Okay, the same is true, by the way, in the opposite. If you're looking for a man in your life, they can never make you happy. If you're unhappy inside, they can never make you happy. If you're unhappy inside, skateboarding is never going to make you happy. If you're unhappy inside, parties are just, injections of short-term happiness. Find your happiness first. Find your happiness by what I said, by loving what you have, by accepting life, by seeing the good things that you have in your life, even when you're locked down and there is uncertainty and so on. Find the good things and love them, right? When you get there, add fun and add pleasure, like we add vitamins to our diet. It's like a supplement. I'm already healthy, but I'm having vitamin C just so that I don't catch a cold. I'm already healthy, but I'm adding magnesium so that I make sure my pains are not exaggerated, and so on and so forth. First, find your happiness and then add fun. It works. Try to escape happiness with fun, and you're going to be unhappy forever.
Alessandra, please.
Hello.
Alessandra. Hey.
Glad to meet you.
Same here.
I want to ask you something about knowledge. I'm a professional. I see we have many information, but poor wisdom. Yes. How can I help my students to change mindsets and do a different management in organizations?
Yeah, it's a very difficult question, especially when you're a professor, by the way, because as professors, we try to tell the world that we know what we're talking about, that knowledge is important, right? Even when I talk about happiness, I can't tell people, hey, by the way, I have a few ideas about happiness, but they're probably wrong. Okay, that doesn't help my story. The truth, however, is any humble person would understand that we know nothing at all. We really, honestly and truly know very, very little. Okay, and especially someone like me who's into physics and astrology and very complex topics that humanity has discovered this much of, but thinks that they have discovered everything. You quickly realize that we actually know nothing at all. The universe is so massive. We've discovered this much of it. There is so much we haven't discovered. And as a result, obviously, there will be so much more that we will discover in the future that will render what we know now to be inaccurate. Okay. And this is not unusual. Newton's laws of physics have put a man on the moon, but they're complete rubbish. As a matter of fact, they're highly simplified to the point that they don't take into consideration many of the forces, and accordingly, they're not accurate, but they're approximate enough to allow us to do things. Our equations of quantum physics allow us to do amazing things with lasers, right? And the lasers will conform to the equations 100%, but our understanding of quantum physics and the uncertainty principle and the Schrödinger cat thought experiment is assumptions at best. If we could actually discover in a couple of years time or in a couple of decades time that all of our understanding about the double slit experiment and all of the hypotheses around wave functions and particle conditions are all just hypotheses, nothing more than that. We could find a very different explanation. As a matter of fact, one of the most shocking things for me was until the late 60s, 1967, we thought that the universe was made of 3% matter and 97% vacuum. Vacuum is nothing, right? And that's what science is. It tells us if I can't measure it, it doesn't exist. Okay, so we literally said that 97% of the universe is nothing. And then we finally said, oh, hold on. There is dark matter and dark energy. They completely fill our universe solid. Okay, 97% of the universe, we had no idea what that is. Okay, and we still have no idea what that is. We just now are acknowledging that it exists. So in my view, knowledge is really two steps of humbleness. The first of them is what Confucius told us, which is your true knowledge is to understand the extent of your ignorance. That is true knowledge. That's the first step to knowledge. And because of that, I interviewed a wonderful friend, Latif Nasser, who is the host of the show Connected on Netflix. I interviewed him on Slow-Mo, and he basically spoke about the blessing of being dumb. And Latif is a PhD from Harvard, so he's really not dumb. Okay, and I said, Latif, what do you mean by that? And he said, I am so dumb. because there is so much more to know, okay? And knowing that there is so much more to know is the true joy of knowledge, okay? So some of us who are, I would say, a little bit driven by our egos, we say, we figured it out. Look at me, I know, okay? Those of us who are driven truly by a hunger to know, by a curiosity about knowledge, they'll say, I know nothing. And I enjoy the process of spending the rest of my life trying to know a tiny bit more, knowing that at the end of my life, I will not know it all. But it's that process of discovery, that process of seeking knowledge, that is the true joy of knowledge. And so for students, if you don't mind me saying, students need to understand that this is not about a destination of I finally figured it out, because you will never figure it out, okay? So students should understand that this is about the journey, the joy of us searching and researching and exchanging information, and then being convinced that something, something that, being convinced that something might be true, to realize that no, it's not at all, and then discovering again. That joy truly is what knowledge is all about.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Sandra.
Yes. So yes, we have everything, Mo. We thank you so much.
I loved this. I'm very, very grateful for the time. It's been stressful being one man among 7 Brazilian women, but I managed to survive. So I'm a better person now. And I hope that we managed to send a few messages for people to think about things, and hopefully not only make themselves happier, but make others happier.
Thank you very much, Mo. Really.